Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you like this episode or want to contact me about any of the topics we cover, follow me at Marcus Amadeus on all social media, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Thanks for tuning in. Bye. Hey, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. It's Sunday. You know what that means. Go to my Instagram. There's a link in the bio. It's going to profile our top for sale open houses in Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens. Brought to you by Compass. Just walk right in. Beautiful places for you to go to look at. But this episode, we're going to talk about the update from the Department of State for New York surrounding broker fees and just go the ins and outs of what are the changes, so what you could be aware of. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Bye. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Well, this app, Anchor, which you can find on your phone and also works on a desktop browser, is a great way to get your podcast off the ground. It's really simple, straightforward, and I've used other services like Squarespace or hosting it on different platforms. It was a bit more cumbersome, but Anchor's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and it's ridiculously easy to use. And now Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That's a huge part of being able to do something creative. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. And one of my favorite other parts about Anchor is that it distributes over many platforms. The analytics are really easy to track, and it's a good way to socialize and network with people too, because they have a discover feature. So go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using the Anchor app. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. Hey, okay. So the Department of State this week, without any notification to brokers or any deliberation with lawmakers or lobbyists, passed a new resolution guideline surrounding broker fees for rental apartments in New York. And you know this is important because if you've ever lived in New York, it's primarily managed and run by brokers. And sometimes you can pay hefty upfront fees, which some people have issues with, some people don't. But it's a very sweeping regulation to happen with no consultation from real estate industry. But here's basically what it says. The major change that you should be aware of is if you are renting an apartment, often there's going to be an exclusive listing agent who is representing the interests of the landlord, okay? So that means you come into a listing, you want to rent it, but that broker is typically, not always, representing the landlord. There is a sheet called a disclosure form standard issued by Department of State. You should sign this every time you do a rental transaction to clarify who this third party is representing. Is it the landlord? Is it the renter/buyer? Or is it both? Because we have dual agency in New York. So a lot of times they will issue a exclusive right to rent an apartment. And even though you're representing the landlord, the new tenant will pay a broker fee. The major change is that now, if the landlord is hiring the broker and a renter comes in, they must pay that fee. So that's a big change because it's typically not done that way, or not all the time, but it's most of the time not done that way. So it's a big change. So just something you to be aware of. The major issue with this is that there's a few ways around this. One, to make it clear, if you're a renter and you hire a real estate broker to help you find a rental apartment, there's still fees. You still need to pay them. That's still as it used to be. Number two, it's possible that you could have the landlord representing or the agent representing the landlord, and then you come in and then also have a dual agency. So there's no real clarification on what that situation is, who should pay it at that time. And then lastly, there's also a possibility, this happens a lot actually, is that they don't give exclusive rights for apartments, but they might give it to marketing rights, but they might give it to a handful of agents. And you advertise the apartment, but you bring the tenant and you still represent the tenant, even though you're marketing the apartment. So those are the three ways that these divisions of fees can be divvied up, and it's a little confusing. So there's definitely going to be some pushback and revamping of this to make it more clear. And there's two takeaways. There's a lot of chat online. If you go look on the Facebook message boards, one, this is going to get baked into the rent. It's like any market. You want to pay it up front. You want to pay it over time. It's going to get baked into the rent. Larger landlords with these massive buildings already have these leasing offices, so they're really not going to be affected. And if they have lots of units, this cost of doing business is already factored in. The people who are probably going to be affected the most are small landlords with, 1 or 2 units per building. Maybe they have 2 buildings, 3 buildings, and they outsource this service to brokers. And they're going to be the most impacted. And I think also what's the negative thing that's going to happen is that typically those apartments, because they're older, are cheaper. This is going to bring up, in my opinion, the rent a little bit. And you're going to end up paying more in rent over time. And it's kind of the balance. Like a lot of times if you have broker fees, you have a much higher upfront cost. But if you stay there for more than 1-2 years, it ends up being cheaper over time. So it's possible that now that you have a higher rent because this transactional fee is baked into your monthly rent and you stay longer, you might end up paying more. So it really comes down to the math and how you want to divvy it up. But in that case, you always need a good broker. That's why you talk to me, Marcus Schott. If you have any questions, just DM me, message me. I'll respond to you. If you're looking for a rental apartment, I'll help you out. Let me know. If you need to list an apartment, be aware of the new laws. And if you decide you want to use an agent, give me a call. And as always, if you have a friend or you are looking to buy, sell, rent in New York, I'm here. We have a network of real estate professionals, real estate broker, handymen, appraisers, mortgage lenders, the whole deal to help you out. So we're a one-stop shop. Thanks for tuning in. If you like the podcast, tell your friend, subscribe. Also, we have house tours on YouTube. Last week we did house hunting in Denver, so it was fun, a little change up. All right, have a good day. Bye.